and welcome back to Hadoop Exam Learning Resources. In this session, we will be covering the important concepts for Kinesis data stream. Okay, so these are the topic which I'll be covering in this. These are very important concepts which you need to understand if you are learning for Kinesis data stream. That is very important, and even for working on the Kinesis data stream or something, correct? So let's start with, and in mid between I will also discuss about the important points regarding the certification exams. Okay, so whenever it comes in, so I would recommend this training. You should use our certification preparation materials where we provide question and answers as well, correct, with the detailed explanation. So that would help you in the even some question would be tweaked by AWS, that still you would be able to answer that question because you know the concepts, underlying concepts. That is very important for you. So let's go through this one by one, and then I'll discuss about this. So as I mentioned like previously, these are the all things which from there you would be getting the data, correct? IoT, log servers, mobile data, trading platform. So this is your user records. So data which you are coming from the producers, like this is like systems which are producing the data, that is known as user records. The records which go into the stream, correct, this is Kinesis data stream platform. This is red block, you can see this is a AWS managed Kinesis data stream. Okay, so these records are known as stream records. So you just need to understand the difference. This is user records, this is stream records, correct? So these are the platform, and inside the shards would be created, different shards would be created. So you can see there is no limit number of shards you can create in a Kinesis data stream, correct? So you can create, because if you increase the number of shard, cost would increase. That is what the point here. So Amazon don't put the limit on the, because this is a huge volume of data and you need huge number of shards sometimes, correct? So it depends like how many shards you need, kind of thing. So this is what. Now this is the consumer will consume the data and can push the data into S3 bucket, DynamoDB, Redshift, EMR, or dashboard, whatever you want to do this, correct? You can do this. Now let's understand first concept is a shard. Uniquely identified sequence of data records in a stream, correct? So this is the data when you produce it, it will go either of the shard. Okay, like how in which shard it would go, it depends on the other factor, will let you know. So but in one shard you could have the collection of records which are uniquely identified sequence of data records in a stream, correct? A stream is composed of one or more shard, each has fixed capacity. So your stream can have more than one, at least one shard, or more than that. So this is and each shard has a fixed capacity. So if you want more capacity, you need to add shard. This is very simple concept. If you need more capacity in the streaming, you have to think of increasing the shard. Remember for the exam perspective, correct? Each shard read 5 transactions per second. At a time 5 transactions, that is first limit. Another limit, volume. Maximum read rate is 2 MB per second. You can do 5 transactions, 2 MB data per second, correct? Either you would divide like what you can say, 400 kilobytes, 400, what if 4000 kilobytes in the, sorry, bytes, 400, whatever, it's a calculation, 2 MB divided by 5 in the 5 transaction, or you read all uh, record in one transaction 2 MB. So either of this limit you have to take care. So like 5 transaction maximum you can do in 1 second, and 2 MB data in you can read 1 second. If you do the 10 transaction, not possible in a 1 second. If you do 3 transactions, you can read up to 2 MB in the 3 transaction. You can even do 1 transaction, but in a single transaction you can read 2 MB data. So writes, similarly this is read limit, this is read limit. Yeah, this is write limit. You can write 1 MB data per second, including the partition key. What is partition key? I'll discuss. Or 1000 records per second. Either you write one, so the total volume of this 1000 records is 1 MB. Then you can write 1000 records together. If your 500 records is making 1 MB, then you can write only 500 records in a per 1 second. So that is the write limit. So read limit 5 transactions per second, and maximum read rate is 2 MB per second. Maximum write rate is 1 MB per second, or 1000 records per second. So stream capacity is shard capacity into number of shards. So that is your shard limits, correct? So if you increase the number of shards, you can, so if you have 5 shards, then your number of so you can write 5000 records per second, correct? 5 shard, each shard has this, or 5 MB data per second. If you have 10 shards, then you can write 10,000 records per second and 10 MB data per second, correct? So that is how this capacity is decided. You can increase or decrease shards as you need it, even dynamically. When your application is running, then still you can uh, increase or decrease the shards, but it has some impact. So you should know this impact. We'll discuss about this. Okay, so partition key, so that is the where the role comes into the pictures of the partition key, in which shard my data should go, correct? So based on the partition key, so there is some value based on this, you decide, like you can decide it in what would be your partition key in your record, correct? So you can have IP address as a partition key, you could have location as a partition key, or any other part can be decided as a partition key. So suppose here we are getting two records, two different not records or multiples, but we want to create two partitions. So here you can see records A, E, C, sorry, A, C, E, and whatever records are okay. Two A records are there, okay, and B, C, sorry, B, D, F are another partition key. So this all blue will go in the first shard and all red would go into the second shard, correct? So that is what the this how this partition key would decide in which shard your data should go. So based on the partition key, data will be written to the specific shard, correct? It is a string with 256 bytes. No points to remember exactly this, that is fine. While adding your data to stream, you must provide partition key. That is very important. If you don't provide the partition key, then it might be unsuccessful. Okay, so sequence number. Now let's, you understand, shard needs a partition key, okay, in which each data record has a sequence number which is unique in a shard. Remember, this record has a 1 2 3, you can say it's a sequence number, then it is unique. So here 1 and 2 possible, so sequence number is unique per shard. Kinesis data stream assign the sequence number after you write data to the stream. So who would assign the sequence number? This Kinesis data stream itself assign this sequence number. You don't have to worry to create this sequence number. Okay. So while you use the API put record and put records, so when data is added into the shard, Kinesis stream itself assign the sequence number here. Okay, so don't worry. So now next is data stream. It is a set of shards. So this is the point here, that we are talking about Kinesis data stream entire. So this is a collection of shards. Each shard is a sequence of records, correct? Sequence number assigned by the Kinesis data stream. Data records, correct? This is records in the Kinesis data stream in the shard, correct? So that is data records. So this data records is sequence number plus partition key plus your data blob. This is actual value up to 1 MB. Okay, so this all three combined can be 1 MB. That is what you have to remember. Okay, this combined partition key, it includes the partition key in 1 MB. This will be in one of the shard. This your data records would go in one of the shard. So Kinesis data stream does not inspect, interpret, or change the data in blob as previously we discussed. So this is very important for the exam perspective. They might ask you question and they give you in the options like Kinesis data stream would filter the data or apply this logic or something. So remember, Kinesis data stream would not read your content in the data. So this option would be incorrect when you apply if you see option with the Kinesis data stream is applying some logic on the data, correct? So that is not possible, correct? Because Kinesis data stream does not read the data, does not inspect the data, okay, what content inside this. So a very important point for your certification perspective. Okay, so retention period default 24 hours. So by default your record remain in the stream for 24 hours, and you can increase that retention period up to 7 days. You can keep it for 7 days. If more than 24 hours, then additional charge will apply because you are using the storage from the Amazon side, correct? Kinesis data stream application. It is a consumer of a stream that commonly runs on a fleet of EC2 servers, correct? So generally consumer you are creating, or if you are using AWS service, it is not necessary, okay, but if you are using AWS services, so you might be using EC2 instances. That is I'm not 100% agree with that, because I have seen various places where streaming part is created on AWS, but data read by the in-house servers, okay, from that streaming. So they can create the connection and then can read the data from the Amazon Kinesis data stream, so to your in-house server. So if you are having in-house servers, you can read it. Generally if you don't read it, then you can use EC2 servers to host your consumer application, okay. So this you have to host on that. Types of consumers are shard fan out consumer, enhanced fan out consumer, okay. This we would be discussing, sorry, this is shared fan out consumer, okay, and in detail in the later section of the module. So this is the advanced topic. There can be multiple application for the same stream to process the data concurrently or independently. As in the previous module we have discussed, like you can process your data independently or concurrently, same data, correct. Kinesis client library, you would see in the, if you are going for big data certification, this certainly you would see the question from the Kinesis client library stuff, okay. So you should know this detail and this, okay. So it is a part of your Kinesis data application. Kinesis client library is provided by the AWS itself. Client library ensures that for every shard there is a record processor running and processing that shard, okay. When I discuss the architecture of the processing and all this thing, this record processor, how it is being used and kind of thing, what is exactly the architecture. But for every shard there should be record processor. If you don't see the record processor for one shard, then your record would not be processed, correct. So that is the responsibility of Kinesis client library, or you can write your own code to manage all this stuff, but I would recommend, and even AWS recommend, use the Kinesis client library, okay. So now another important point for the certification perspective, the Kinesis client library uses the DynamoDB table to store control data. Control data means like when I store the data into the streaming, correct. This, in this application my data is stored, correct, in this shard. So, and how much data I have read, how much data have been processed by the KCL or something. This all details is stored in the DynamoDB table, correct. That is important. Even you have not created DynamoDB table, correct, but in the background Kinesis data stream would have created the DynamoDB table with the name of the application which you create. So if you creating consumer application name Hadoop exam app or something, then Hadoop exam app would be the table name in the DynamoDB database would be created, correct. So what is the important question they would ask in the exam is like, you are not able to perform this stuff and kind of thing. So in one of the option you can see like you don't have a permission on the DynamoDB table to write the data. That could be your correct choice in that question, correct. So it creates one table per application, that is the processing the data. So like your app data is a like you want to process, that is a different thing. But control data, like what had been done by the Kinesis data stream, what Kinesis client library. Again, important point here to remember is this Kinesis client library create the DynamoDB table, okay, not streaming. If you are using Kinesis client library, then only this DynamoDB table would be created for consume the data. Again, very important point to remember. Now next point is question they would ask is the permission related, okay. So two important thing here, one is Kinesis client library using, then DynamoDB table. Another point is you may not have a permission to write data on the DynamoDB table. So that is another question they would ask, okay. So just remember this. Next is application name. You can give the application name which is like consumer side application, okay. So whatever name you give your consumer side application, that name would be used to create the DynamoDB table as well, okay. So you have to provide application name which is unique for one account, one reason. So if you are having account in AWS account, then you, if you are using 4 reason, then 4 different application name you can give it. Okay, but it is a combination of account plus reason should be unique. They wouldn't ask question on that, I believe. Same name is used to create control table in DynamoDB table. With the DynamoDB, same name will be used for namespace in CloudWatch matrix. CloudWatch is for monitoring. If you are going for sysops exam, remember this is CloudWatch matrix. Certainly would be asked here. This question would be asked for sysops exam. Okay, so now that is for security exams, server side encryption is very important, and even for big data specialist itself, and even associate architect and professional also, this security would be certainly part of your associate architect and professional architect exam, that is for sure. So server side encryption you should understand. So like Kinesis data stream uses the AWS KMS customer master key. Okay, so that is one key. If I'm not sure you are aware or not, this is KMS solutions. They provide customer master key. That customer master key is used to encrypt the data as soon as it is entered into the stream. Exactly, there is a little difference. They use the data key actually, okay, to encrypt your data. So data key itself would be encrypted using your customer master key. When we discuss KMS module, in another training, obviously not part of this, so then I'll go in detail, but let's understand customer master key is not used for your data encryption. Your data key is used for encryption. So data key would be encrypted by the customer master key. Correct. So this data key, decrypted data key should not be shared with anybody, because customer master key would always remain within the AWS. It would never leave the AWS platform. You can use data key, so you can encrypt the data key using customer master key. Okay, and this data key can be used to encrypt your data. So you encrypt data as soon as it enters into the stream. Okay, so that is, you have to remember to read from or write to an encrypted stream. Producer and consumer must have a permission to access the master keys. That is again important questions. If you are, they ask questions like you have a encrypted enabled for the streaming, but somehow data is not getting encrypted, or some exception you are getting it correct. So you don't, your producer or consumer do not have permission to use this KMS master key. That is the important point you need to remember. So KMS master key permissions are required, correct? If for producer and consumer application, because stream is already using your KMS, because you have enabled it and they can use it. But for consumer and producer also required to access your KMS master key. Data ingested into Kinesis data stream is known as a data records, as we have discussed. So this is a user records, which is actual blob, actual business data, and data records is a combination of these three. As per your capacity requirement, you define the number of shards, what capacity you read it. Like I want to process 5, I want to I'm getting data 10,000 records per second. So how many shards we need it for write, 1000 records per seconds is a limit, correct? So if I'm getting 10,000 records per seconds, then I would need to provision 10 shards in my streaming, correct? So server side encryption, both producer and consumer have access to that master keys. Okay, worker, very important. They would ask question based on the worker in big data specialist exam. All the data is in the shard is sent to the same worker that is processing the shard. Okay, like if one shard data would go to the same worker. Okay, because you see, like sequencing is important, ordering is important, so that is the reason one worker. But inside the worker you could have multiple processor which can concurrently process your data. Okay, so you could have a let me just give me a moment. Okay, just let me pause the video. I wanted to pause it. Okay, so what we were discussing about, this is your streaming, this is one worker, correct? So this from this shard, only one worker at a time can process the data. But inside the worker, you could have parallel processing, like multiple threads. If you understand the concurrency, so multiple threads would be created to process your, suppose you are getting batch of records from here, correct, as a consumer side. So this 5 records goes here or from this worker to this. So all 5 can be parallelly processed if required. It's up to you how would you want to process it. This logic, it's up to you, correct. If you want to process in sequence, then you would have only one processing records would be there. If you are fine with not to maintain the ordering, then you can process like kind of things. Okay, so parallelly, concurrently, that is the point here. Okay, so now all the data in shards sent to the same worker that is processing this shard. Partition key should be much greater than number of your shards. That is the important point here. Suppose if you are having 2 shards created, correct, and okay, so you are getting 100 records. It is possible out of 100 records 50 it should be, a partition should be created like this. 50 records should go in this shard and 50 records should go in this shard. So depend like how many partition key you want to create it, correct. Generally partition key should be much more than your number of shards. So suppose you are getting 1000 records per second, so I can't recommend what would be, but it should be always higher than. So you could create 10 partition keys, correct. 10 partition keys means 5 partition keys assigned for this shard and 5 partition keys for, so based on the partition key value based on which, so that is the recommendation from the AWS side. Your partition key should be much higher than number of shards. Okay, that is you remember. Okay, consumer Kinesis data stream okay, consumer I'll take in the next session. Okay, so because I don't want to create big sessions so you won't get bored, correct. So thanks for watching, and I hope you like this session. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe it, and still I would recommend like keep visiting hadoopexam.com website regularly. We have a lot of products, you can see, keep releasing and adding new products in our annual subscription regularly, and we have a lot of certification preparation material for big data, for Spark, for analytics, for the we have trainings, books, etc. So based on your requirement you can subscribe individual topics. So this many products we have for Amazon Web Services of now. So please visit hadoopexam.com, and I would also ask one favor. Whenever if you go for our training materials, your question answers and whatever feedback you have, please provide this feedback so we can improve our product as well accordingly, and we can give you the updated product as well if you have subscribed on regular basis. So if you see, and if you really want to get the regular updates on this your subscriptions whatever, so I would suggest you go here annual sorry, not annual subscription, this is wrong button. There is a subscribe button. Okay, go to the subscribe button and put your email ID and your name and email ID, so you can subscribe our email list and we can send. So if you want to see what updates we have done in the past few days, few years, couple of years, you can see here. These are all the announcement we have done in a couple of years. Okay, so it seems slides slow or internet is slow. So you here you can see all the, let me show you. Okay, some internet issue. Okay, because site is not that slow, I believe. Okay, so you can see all the announcements and everything here, and other things like all available certifications, etc. You can see here. What else I can say? So keep visiting and provide your feedback. That is very important for us. Okay, so let me check whether this is still not loaded. I don't know, I just refresh it and get loaded. So this is the page. You can see these are all announcements which we have done in a, like this is our recent announcement kind of thing, correct? So this is from the email list which we flow, which we do the announcement, and you can see this detail, correct? So similar announcement we do, and we add here all the announcements. So if you have subscribed to any product, you can check here if there is any relevant announcement, because sometimes what happens, our announcement goes in spam list of emails, so that is possible. So however, we don't do the spamming. We, you see, very like how frequently we send an email, not very regular basis. So you can see there is a good days of differences, correct? You can see. So we don't do the spamming. We try to inform you as well as maintain the not spamming. So this is all the announcement you can see, and you can come anytime over here and you can see whatever all the announcements. So this is the home page where we have listed all the available products as of now, and we are keep adding. And if any way you can help us, please let us know. Thanks for watching. I'm stopping now.